Jared Seymour.
My name is Joey Cates.
It is Joey Cates. And in the studio, we got a great show for you lined up this evening, man. We got the guys from the DMR. We're going to be talking about the recent opening of the oyster season, all things DMR, man. These are always some great episodes, so y'all are going to enjoy it. But before we do that, we got to thank the people that keep the lights on for us over here at the Brownwater Studio, man. Right out of the gate, Dr. Robbie Williams over at Southern Magnolia Smiles, man. If you're looking for a great local dentist, you can look them up on Facebook or Instagram at Southern Magnolia Smiles. When you're ready to book that consultation with them and get those pearly whites cleaned up, you can give them a shout and book that consultation at 228-215-1202 and tell them that Brownwater sent you. Our buddy Tyler over at Taylor and Cox Law Firm. If you're looking for someone to represent you legally, they come highly recommended in their field, man. They've been practicing law on the Mississippi Gulf Coast for over 30 years. They specialize in felonies, misdemeanors, DUIs, family law, divorce, child custody, you name it. If you want somebody that's going to fight tooth and nail for you, man, give Taylor and Cox Law Firm a call. You can book a consultation with them by giving them a shout at 228-696-0111. And this is our buddy Kendrick over at Forever Young Men and Women's Health. If you're trying to get back into the gym, you're trying to start working out again, but you can't get off the couch, give them a call, man. They specialize in testosterone replacement therapy for both men and women. He can do some lab work on you. He can figure out if you're vitamin deficient. Look him up on Facebook. He's got a lot of cool content out there explaining a lot of what they do. Forever Young Men and Women's Health. And when you want to book that consultation, you just give them a call as well at 228-363-6623. Nailed it.
Killed it. Welcome
Beat you
back.
again. Yeah. Welcome back. It does feel like it's been a minute since we did one of these. How many weeks has it been we've been off?
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. But anyway, gentlemen, thank you for being in the studio with us this evening. We always like to start these episodes out by introducing yourself, how you got affiliated with the DMR, how long you've been there, and like what your specific role is at the DMR. So take it away. Whoever wants to go first.
Yep.
I'll jump in.
All right, go ahead.
So my name is Jason Ryder. I've been with the DMR for right on 12 or 13 years. I'm currently the Shellfish Bureau Director at the agency. And I got in, like I said, 12 or 13 years ago, started in some PR outreach type programs. Then I moved into a biological side of it.
Okay.
Shellfish coordinator.
Okay.
So,
can you explain just a little bit to people that don't know Shellfish coordinator? Like what's under that umbrella?
So the Shellfish Bureau, what we do is we manage all restoration and harvest activities. So anything that's going into the water to restore the Mississippi Gulf Coast, shellfish related. So we do culture plants, restoration activities, and then we also manage harvest activities for on bottom and off bottom harvest.
Okay. All right. Good deal.
Yep. Eric Broussard, been with the agency about 17 years. Initially started out in artificial reef bureau, building the reefs, inshore, offshore, wading reefs, stuff like that. And about the last 8 years, I moved into shellfish and like Jason said, did a lot of the same things. And now I'm the Deputy Director of Marine Fisheries and working with shrimp and crabs, oysters, and seafood processors.
Okay. All right. Killer. That's pretty cool, man. Yeah, for sure.
We talked earlier about the oyster, just the population. It's kind of taken a beating since Katrina, right? Or even before that, oil spill, Katrina, all that stuff.
Hey, real quick, can you pull that mic into you? It bends right into the corner of your mouth. Yeah, right there. Yep, a little bit better. Yep. Go ahead, Doug. Go ahead, Joe. I'm going to cut you off.
Yeah. So it's been up and down since Katrina. We lost over 90% of the reefs during Katrina, had some great restoration efforts and kind of got things back in line and had a few good seasons right there in 2010, 11, 12. And like you said, the oil spill,
Bonnie Carey.
And the Bonnie Carey in 2011.
Good.
And so that was kind of the first big hit after Katrina. And then it was just on from there. We were averaging natural disaster every 2.5 years. And the life cycle to get oysters back to harvestable size takes about 24 months. And so every time we're on the cusp of having something going on,
gets washed away.
Get washed away. And so it's just been a roller coaster ride the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, we heard a presentation. Was you at the one at the Gulf Fishing Banks meeting where one of y'all's representatives came in and talked about oysters and stuff, and showed graphs of the population from way back to now to the hits you're talking about with Katrina, Bonnie Carey, all this other stuff, and even how much water that just a single oyster can filter in. I forget how they break it down by the hour, by the day, or whatever, but it's pretty significant. How important they are to the ecosystem, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're the building blocks. They're what makes the estuary what it is. That with the marsh grass, they're that important. Right. They're not only important for their meat value, but they also provide habitat, spawning areas for speckled trout. Shelter for shrimp, crabs. invertebrates, all sorts of things. And so they're extremely important. And also the water quality that you.
Yeah,
that you
yeah. I
brought
was gonna say
up,
it's just a nice little plus that they taste amazing when you throw them in batter and
Yeah.
fry them.
That's right.
Oh, you put them on a
it's just
cracker.
extra.
Yeah,
Yeah,
put them
yeah,
on a
it's just extra.
cracker. Is it?
But no, so what do y'all look at like inside of y'all's department? You said every 2 years here recently we've been kind of getting punched in the teeth when it comes to the population size. What are y'all monitoring, and what is it looking like right now for us? Like I think we're doing better, right?
Yeah. So the last couple of years we have been doing a lot better. So since 2019, the Bonnet-Carré Spillway was the last big event, and Hurricane Zeta was after that. But since then, we've had some relatively good success on our spawning stock and our recruitment.
Right.
So we are seeing some good rebounding along the Mississippi Gulf Coast in the western side of the state and in the central side of the state. So we are seeing some good recruitment, good spawning. The resource is growing at a reasonable rate, and what we're trying to do is build on where we came from with those disasters, and we're trying to build slowly but steadily and manage it appropriately so we can continue harvesting appropriately.
Okay.
So first time in 5 years, it opened up to tonging. Am I correct by saying that? Harvesting oysters, yeah?
So in middle of November, we opened up for tonging and dredging,
Okay.
the whole western Mississippi Sound. So we have not had that since 2019.
Right.
Or 2018, excuse me. And we did open that up for some harvest. It was a limited season. We wanted to, again, manage it appropriately, but we wanted to get people access to the resource. So we wanted to show them that there are some oysters out there, and we want you to harvest them. But we wanted to do it correctly this year to see who was going to go fish that resource and how much was going to come off the reefs.
Yeah. What was the feedback from it? Did it go pretty good numbers wise?
So we had a 11-day season in November.
Right.
Today was the last day that we had available for harvest for November.
Okay.
And we did see some good harvest from it. Like we mentioned, that the reefs have been closed for quite some time.
Right.
So there's not a lot of people that were ready and willing to jump after it day one.
It's hard work.
That's
Yeah.
right. It's a lot of hard
Tough.
work, and people just weren't used to doing it on an annual basis. So we had to get them the knowledge to do it, tell them that we were available for harvest,
Right.
and then let them get their boats and their equipment ready for it. So over the course of that 11-day season, we did see some increase of harvest, and I think it was a good start to it. No complaints. I think the fishermen harvested what they wanted on a daily basis, and then we could manage it appropriately.
Yeah. I think what would you give them? 3 sacks a person, 1 sack a person?
So
something like that?
recreationally, it's 3 sacks
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
7-day period, but the commercial limit for dredging and tonging was 10 sacks. And most people that went out got their limit. Whether it was pretty quick and some of them took a little longer, but they did get their limit for the most part, the ones that went out.
What did you say? 3 sacks a day, or say that again for me?
3 sacks in a 7-day period
Okay.
recreationally. So
Okay.
if you wanted to go out just recreationally, you and a buddy, you can go get your 3 sacks in a 7-day period.
Okay.
Joe
And
can get his 3 sacks.
so per person.
Per person.
Okay.
7
And is there a license associated with that? How does that work?
Yeah, you can just go get a recreational oyster license,
Okay.
or commercial tong or dredge, and you come up to the agency. There is a little class you have to take. There's a lot of rules with harvesting oysters because it's a raw product,
Yeah.
and so
yeah,
there's a lot of public
How you
safety.
handle it.
Yep,
Yeah,
there's a lot
yeah.
of public safety in mind there, and so and every state kind of manages slightly differently, and so we just kind of give you the basics, and so that way you have a good experience when you go out.
One of the things that we like to do, especially on these episodes with you guys, is kind of nerd out and get into the details a little bit. How do y'all monitor this? Like, how do you monitor what the population looks like? How do you decide what the harvest should be? Like this stuff like that.
So every year, every spring and summer season, we're going out as an agency, and we're doing reef assessments. So we're diving on the reefs, on the resource that's available, and we're doing what it's called square meter sampling and dredge tows. So we will go out and we will sample a contained footprint, and we'll see how many oysters are in that area,
Okay.
a square meter. And what we can do is we can we'll do that across the whole Mississippi Sound, and we'll get a good idea of what's out there.
Right.
And then we can take those numbers and extrapolate them to what we think is available for harvest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a certain bar, like threshold, that when we hit this, then it's time to open up again?
Certainly. So we have those discussions as an agency and as a resource manager. We're always looking at those types of decisions. And it's not a hard and true number.
Right.
It
Yeah.
fluctuates. So it may have been good for 3 years, and then we had an event of whatever it was.
Right.
So we have to take that into an account, and then we would manage it appropriately. Or we'd have a banner year, and we have good recruitment for the oysters, spat, and recruitment's excellent, and then we would take that into consideration for a couple years later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, all these words I didn't have any clue until they started the whole Deer Island oyster stuff.
Yep.
And then I guess everybody started getting into it there, where it was almost like a school you had to attend and classes and stuff like that, right? That's all was y'all as well, right?
Yeah, Jason was on the front end of getting that program off the ground and talked to him. I mean, about going over the country and looking at different places and then developing that program. We're one of the only states that offer that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we did is, in about 2015, 2016, the oyster resource was in a bad spot.
Right.
And what they did is the agency and Governor Phil Bryant at the time wanted us to take a look at the oyster resource as a state, as a whole, and what we could do to improve it. And one of the things that came out of that was off-bottom aquaculture. So it's diversifying your industry. So typically in Mississippi, we've always harvested oysters on the bottom with tongs or dredges. Yeah. It's a public resource. The state managed it. We'd allow the public to go out there and harvest those products and then consume them or sell them.
Right.
One of the results that came out of that study was we need to diversify. Diversifying was off-bottom aquaculture. Right. So with that, the agency came in and said, okay, we're going to take down as many barriers as we possibly can with oysters, and specifically oyster aquaculture. So we permitted some area behind Deer Island. We trained these individuals, that anyone that was interested, we said, hey, if you're interested in learning how to grow oysters in a containerized method, come take this class. We'll train you. And then we'll give you some oysters to learn and grow.
Right.
To make some mistakes where it's not on your dime.
Right.
And then after that, if they were still interested, they would take the little bit of money that they made from those oysters, and then they would start their own business. Okay. They would invest in themselves.
Yeah.
So
was that program designed though? Like that wasn't to like build back the population of oysters here on the Gulf Coast per se, right? That was kind of more for sales, right? Am I saying that correctly?
That's right.
Okay.
So that's again diversifying the resource or the industry. That was for sales. That was for workforce development and to increase the market demand for it.
Okay.
And at that time, we didn't know what the future held.
Right.
We didn't know if we were going to keep having these man-made natural disasters. And so we were looking for ways immediately that we could get involved and put oyster fishermen or anybody else that wanted to get involved with it to work when they're in control of their own destiny, because you can grow these types of oysters in areas that you can't grow the wild oysters,
Right. Because they don't need the structures.
The bottom type is different things, there's different parameters. And so this was a kind of and it's being done on the West Coast and East Coast for a very long time. And so it was a proven method. The Gulf as a whole had been pretty healthy. And so it wasn't very popular to that point. But now you see Alabama was a little bit ahead of us, but now it's growing. Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida. And so it was just a way to have something going if things didn't get better.
Yeah.
It seemed to take off because everybody I know is an oyster farmer these days. It's like, hey, man, I got some oysters too. And they're delicious.
Yeah.
They are delicious.
I think it's cool because like you can kind of control the size, the shape of the oyster. They come out very, very seller friendly. That's a good way to put it. It looks good on a plate.
Yeah, they're aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. That's
singles.
That's what I was trying to do.
Singles instead of the clusters that you're used to.
Right. And it gave people the opportunity to kind of build their own brand. Like you mentioned, to build a business out of it. You can create brand merchandise. I mean, it's cool to see it on a menu when you go into a restaurant, stuff like that.
Yeah. So what it did is it allowed that owner or that leaseholder to develop his business as he or she see fit. Instead of relying on the state to say when and where you can harvest, we gave them the availability of a lease area behind Deer Island, and we said this is what you can do in this area, and you decide how you want to build your business.
Right.
Yeah.
They can harvest as long as the conditions are okay or open. They can harvest when and how they want.
Okay. There really wasn't a season for it.
That's right. There's no season for it. They can harvest 12 months out of the year. They can harvest as much as they want, and they can harvest basically whatever size they want.
Okay.
So if you have a customer that wants a larger oyster, you could sell that oyster to the customer that wants that. If you want a restaurant that wants a smaller oyster, you could grow that and sell that there also.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And it's work too. A lot of people jumped into that game and was like, oh, we're going to do this. Didn't realize, because when they start off, I mean, you get them, they're little bitty like dots, right? And then you got to turn them every so many times and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's a ton of work. It's nothing but work and work and work. That's what we try to tell these people in the classes that we participate in, is that if you don't have the time and the work ethic, then it's not going to work for you.
Right.
You really have to have a passion for it, and the time and the work ethic.
Yeah.
Because they have to go out there, and yes, they do. They get the seed at a very small size, and then they basically they cultivate that oyster from 2 millimeter size or 4 millimeter size all the way to a market size oyster, which is typically about 3 inches. And so it takes a lot of time.
Yeah. And it's kind of like humans.
That's right.
As the babies, you're out there just about every other day, dealing with it. But once they get bigger, you kind of lax up a little bit. It's what I've heard from it.
Yeah. So they each, and that's again to what these farms want to do, is they can decide how they want to manage their farms.
Right.
If they want to work them on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis, or however they choose, that's up to them.
Mm-hmm.
So if they have a customer that wants a premium product, they can sell to that premium market.
Right.
If they want a customer that wants a
Smaller
mid-tier,
oyster,
a smaller tier or a mid-tier product, they can also provide that opportunity.
Yeah, like an adjunct to the natural selection of what's going on with the population. You mentioned that today, I think you said, was the last day of the 10-day season. Is that correct?
That's right. So we had a November season. Today was the last day.
Okay. Would talk to us a little bit about, so obviously you felt like the population was where it should be, or you wouldn't have opened it. How do you monitor? We mentioned the license. You go out there and get the license, which is how much you get, 3 sacks in a 7-day period. But how, from y'all's perspective, did you monitor who's going out there and how much they're retrieving, how much they're harvesting?
So what we do is for the on-bottom season that we just had in November, and what they do is they will check in with us every morning. So if you want to go out and harvest some oysters, you will come to one of our check stations, and you'll say, I'm going to go take my boat out. I'm going to harvest some oysters today.
Right.
And then they go out, they tong or dredge some oysters. They come in back to that same check stations. They tell us how many they harvested that day. We provide tags and the required documentation for that. And they sell their oysters to whoever they want. They can sell those oysters to the public, to the retail market, or to a dealer.
Okay.
So, but oysters are one of those things that the traceability aspect has always been involved with it since a long time ago, from the 70s or 60s. We've always been able to trace the oysters and where they're coming from, when they're harvested, and how they're harvested.
Yeah. Just because of the danger potential, right?
That's right. You're consuming that product raw, and we want to make sure it's safe. We don't want to risk consumption of those oysters if it's an adulterated product. So we want to make sure everything's safe. We test the water. We test the oysters themselves. We really do our best to make sure anything that's going on the market is safe for consumption raw.
Right.
So
what is the can you talk on the levels of what makes an oyster not edible? What makes them what makes y'all shut down reefs? Like, is there something you're looking for?
So we manage our reef systems by river and rainfall. So just hydrological and meteorological thresholds. And so if it rains 1 inch, it'll close certain reefs. If it rains 2 inches, it'll close certain reefs. And how we got to that is we sample monthly at the bare minimum, but usually more than that. And we have to have a baseline of data
right
that the FDA requires us to have. And then we can correlate the water quality with those stages in rainfall or river. And so that's when he's talking about opening and closing and different things. And every state's a little different. Our reefs are in close proximity to land.
Right.
And so the closer you are to land, the more sensitive it can be affected by those hydrological.
And so when you're saying rainwater, I'm thinking salinity, but that ain't the case then, right? For as far as shutting down a reef, you're talking about more like water runoff, pollutants, chemicals that oyster is going to absorb.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is the time frame there from say this is enough rainwater to close this reef? How long do y'all have to let it sit before you reopen it?
So once the event is gone, then we'll go out and sample. And if the samples come back good, then
Yeah.
we'll open the reefs, and if they're bad, then we'll keep them.
When you
closed.
say sample, do you mean sample the water or
Water
sample the
samples,
actual
yeah.
oyster
Yeah.
itself?
Both. In some
Okay.
instances, it's both, and some it's just the water sample.
Okay.
Just whatever the requirement is for that situation.
Okay. Yeah, because he's nothing but a filter. He's sucking.
Yeah,
everything.
he's sucking everything in and
Yeah.
throwing it back out.
Yeah.
It's amazing the job that they do, and it's I always get it. You see the old pictures of Biloxi was always the seafood capital of the world.
Yeah.
And these old timers are standing on oyster mounds that
Yeah,
are like
absolutely.
50, 60 feet in the air, man. It's just
Right.
like, what do y'all think happened? Did we over harvest? Did we not plan for the future? Did we have too many natural disasters? What are y'all's opinions on that?
I don't think there's a simple answer.
Right.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah.
I mean, it's the culmination of a lot of different things, and I hate to put one on the spot and say that's what it is,
Right.
because it really is. There's a lot of things. It's development. It's the loss of habitat. It's runoff. It's a lot of things. And so it's just different. The last 10 years, we've pretty much been fighting the Bonnet stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And so other than that, like I said, we're starting to see it go in a good direction. So that shows that oyster still can be viable in the Mississippi Sound, and we are headed in the right direction. But it is a slow process.
You mentioned multiple states. I guess y'all communicate with those agencies as well. Is there any place that y'all are aware of where it's like the on bottom oysters are just thriving? Is there anywhere where they're just doing really well?
So Texas and Louisiana have a pretty prosperous private on bottom program. So what they do is they lease out a lot of acreage in those states.
Okay.
And so I would say those two states are doing fairly well for production of oysters.
Yeah.
That's still on bottom that they lease?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't have that here, right?
Well, we can touch on that a little bit, but I will say, obviously both states have a lot more coastline, and so when you
I
look
was
at
just saying,
just,
Louisiana and Texas always
pure oyster density or production, I think the reefs that we have in the Western Sound can produce at that level. Unfortunately, they're just
compact.
They're a lot smaller,
right,
and a lot more effective. If a spot in Louisiana gets hit by some kind of event, there's still millions of acres somewhere else that can be productive. Mississippi's out. Mississippi's completely out.
Right. There's nowhere to move on.
Yeah, because we have less coastline than they do. Yeah.
What do we struggle with the mud here? Is it harder to make a on bottom reef with the mud, not having anything to stick down there?
So anywhere that you're going to try to, you're asking about developing an oyster reef.
Correct, on bottom, yeah.
Yeah. So anywhere that we're looking to develop an oyster reef, we're gonna sample. We're gonna do our due diligence to find the best suitable area for that oyster reef. I wouldn't say that we're in the worst place than any other state in the of the Gulf Coast. You have to find where that reef or where those oysters are going to succeed at, and really focus on that.
Okay.
Every state has good areas, average areas, and bad areas, and we do this on a daily basis.
Yeah.
We say this is a good spot that we want to put our efforts into, and we want to put some culture material down in that area, and they all have that.
Yeah, you're not just going out and throwing oysters over the side of the boat, right? Y'all
Absolutely
are dropping them in.
So we really pay attention to things we can't control: where we put it out, what we put it out, when we put it out. And those are the things, those are the parameters that we can control. And so we put a lot of effort and emphasis in that. And that square meter diving that Jason was talking about, we actually have divers in the water picking up oysters, putting them in a bag, and bringing them up. But one of the most important things that comes out of that is the bottom type. They're actually putting their hands on the bottom.
Yep.
And when they come up, there's somebody that asks them, what's the bottom type? And they're filling that out. And so we take all those data sheets, and then they put them in a GIS platform, and then we can map out, like Jason said, these are the spots that are good.
Hot, yeah.
And we're very confident in those spots because of the bottom type.
Hell,
And I think that's something that we've really advanced in recently is that the GIS platforms, we know where our good areas are at, where we need to focus on, and what we should strive to build up. That's a pretty recent thing that we've had in the last couple of years, and I think it's very good that we can do that, and we are doing that. If we want to develop an area, we can pinpoint exactly what we want to build up, and then go right there.
Yeah. Do y'all ever put anything down before you do like limestone or something like that to where the oysters stick to that a little better?
Yeah, I mean, like y'all were talking about, there are different methods to develop different bottom types.
Right.
If it's a real hard bottom type, and a limestone or shell is going to work. It's going to sit right there on the top. The spat's going to attach easily. But if you're trying to develop a softer bottom, then you're going to take a little bit different approach, and you might put some shells down and then limestone on top to keep it from subsiding.
Build it up, yeah.
And so it just all depends, and it's it's a moving target always.
Yeah.
Area ever, and you'll see reef systems. Every reef's a little different, and so we take different approaches from Biloxi Bay to past Marianne. And so.
Okay. What did y'all see on this 10-day season as far as the harvest was concerned? Are y'all aware of like what was brought in quantity, but also like what did they look like? Was the quality there? Did they seem to be like nice oysters?
Yeah, so I think the quality was there. The quality, everyone we spoke with throughout this small season that we had, no one complained about the quality. The oysters were of good size. They were good quality.
Right.
And I think no one had complaints about that. We just wanted to make sure that the fishermen were getting what they needed out of this season and that they were doing it appropriately. We didn't want to make any knee-jerk decisions on this one. We wanted to do it correctly and monitor it.
When you say knee-jerk decisions, what do you mean as far as length of time or how much you can harvest or?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, both.
Okay.
We wanted to say, all right, so we're going to have this season. We haven't had a season in a couple of years. We want to provide this opportunity to the fishermen, go out there, see what they can catch. The pressure on the resource, it was I guess it was pretty good for the amount of fishermen that were out there.
Okay.
So we could see how many people were going out on a daily basis, and then they were catching what they wanted to catch. They were getting their quota every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So which was good. So if you had a fisherman going out on a commercial license, he was catching 10 sacks a day.
Dang.
Yeah.
So that's a pile of oysters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ain't nothing wrong with that at all.
No, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You don't want guys going out there and they can't get anything because that's just going to discourage them from doing anything in the future.
Correct.
That's correct.
So yeah, that's good to hear because it's a vital resource. These reefs do they aid in like what we talk about Gulf fishing banks and sinking the pokey boats and all that? They provide structure for fish as well. These oyster reefs in and of themselves, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so the artificial reef program built inshore reefs, and basically what you're trying to do is create oyster reefs.
Okay.
In areas that would be desirable to fish as well. So it'd be a dual purpose.
Okay.
But yeah, absolutely. I mean, past Marianne's very well known for catching big speckled trout, at certain times of the year.
Now when you're creating you said an artificial on bottom reef, are we using structures? Or are we using, is that what you mentioned earlier, like limestone and old shells?
Using the
like
same type of material in different places.
Okay.
But the goal would be to also establish an oyster reef as well. So it'd be some secondary production going on.
That's where the fish are. I remember my grandpa, we get in a little skiff and he'd take his sounding pole,
Mm-hmm.
doom, 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 wherever the oysters were, that's where we're fishing.
Yeah.
Or
Makes sense.
Fish on top of it.
Makes sense. Yeah.
All day long.
Oh yeah. I think we touched on it a little bit before we kick the cameras on. Do we have any breaking information, any breaking news that we can touch on from the DMR today?
So I do think we are going to announce fairly soon that we're going to extend this limited season into December.
Sweet.
So we are going to have some oyster harvest in December. We had 11 days in November. I think we're going to have about the same in December. We hope the fishermen can go out and catch some oysters. We want to see them succeed. We don't want to limit them on when and how they can go, but we want to do it appropriately. Mm-hmm. So we are looking at that December season.
Okay. So oyster dressing for Christmas.
That's right. Joe gets his Christmas oyster.
That's right. That's right. Oyster dressing for Christmas.
What's the plan for the future as far as the season is concerned? I mean,
so December, we're probably going to open up, I'd say mid-December. And it'll be about a 10 or 11-day season, fairly similar to what we did in November.
Okay.
So people can certainly model what happened in November to what's going to happen in December. We hope to see some increase. People going out there catching some oysters,
right?
Like you're saying, Christmas dressing, things like that. We want those oysters in Mississippi. We want everyone that wants an oyster dressing to go buy it from the fisherman or buy it from a local harvester or a dealer. And
get out there and work them shoulders out on them songs.
Yeah.
Because it's a workout. It's a workout.
Go take your boat out. And
too old for that, man. You got to hire some young bucks.
I'm gonna go to Quality and just buy them. This is easy. But no, I mean even further out, like next year. Like what is the ultimate goal for? Is it one a month? Is it 3 a year?
So this is a very untraditional season. I mean, typically we're talking about opening up in October or November and going till April.
Okay.
And it's 6 days a week,
That's what I'm getting.
30 sacks. And
Yeah,
so this is a very, very small, limited season. Like I said, we want to provide the public access to the resource, but we also want to continue to maintain that growth in the right direction. And so we want to take a reasonable amount. And it's really just going to be year to year. I think that if things continue on the same path, then ideally we'd be able to see a little bit of an uptick and an increase in the season and hopefully grow into it. So we'll just have to see. I mean, it really does change year to year.
And it could, I mean, that's what no
knock
more.
on wood. You better knock on wood before you.
yeah.
I know what you're about to say. You better just not even say it.
No crazy storms, no more crazy Bonnie
Yeah,
Carey stuff.
yeah,
Like,
right.
all that kind of just chills out. That's
Jason did mention a little bit about private leasing, and that is something also that's new that we're trying as a state. And so,
So what we have right now is if anyone's interested in leasing some acreage in Mississippi, we have a program that's open right now to where any citizen of Mississippi could apply for, and if they meet the qualifications, be granted some acreage on the Mississippi Sound to have acreage for harvest.
for on bottom.
on bottom
harvest. Excuse me. Yes. So on bottom harvest.
So can you explain to me the difference between the two, rather than the obvious? One is not on the bottom, one is. What's the difference there, though, as far as, from the harvester's perspective, from the quality of the oyster, or what's the difference there? More acreage for less? I don't know. Like, what's the difference?
There's a lot of differences, and it's a loaded question, but I'll try to get into it.
Yeah.
So if you're doing an on-bottom oyster farm, you have a relatively small footprint. You have maybe 1 to 10 acres. If you're very large, you have 20 acres.
Okay.
And you're containerizing those oysters at the surface of the water, and you're cultivating like we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You're growing those oysters. You're going out. You're working those oysters constantly.
Right.
Those are your babies. You are cleaning them. You're changing bags. You're working those oysters constantly.
This is off bottom.
This is off bottom.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
This is off bottom.
Yes.
Floating cages.
Okay.
And then you're selling those oysters at a premium price, or to whoever you would like to sell them to at the price you desire. On bottom is a little bit different because you're looking at that acreage, and you're going to go out there and you're going to plant those bottoms. So you're going to put culture material down, limestone, oyster shells, things like that.
And that's on the person who is
that's correct
leasing the spot from y'all.
That's right.
So you're in charge of everything
for financing this whole.
Okay.
endeavor.
All right.
Okay.
So you're just getting a piece of land. You got to make it work.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you're getting a piece of land. You're getting a plot of land,
Right.
and then you're going to develop that land. What you do with oysters on one bottom is you put material down on the bottom,
Right.
and then you hope for recruitment, or you plan for recruitment of those oysters from the natural areas around you. So you put down rock, you put down oyster shells, they attach to that, and they grow up, and then you harvest it as you deem fit, and you go from there. So what they do is they plant the rock, they wait a little while, they let the recruitment happen, and they go back and harvest it at a later date.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
I mean, can you do that? Does it have to be in a certain area, or where are the leases at?
There, it is fairly selective. So right now, what's available to lease is what we currently have permitted with the Army Corps of Engineers. So we have a blanket permit, and that's what this program is available to. Now, it's not to say that you can't get other areas, but you would have to go through that permitting processes, which can be very lengthy.
Yeah.
And can be expensive. And so this is about as shovel ready as you can get,
Mm-hmm.
and it's still a lot. Like, to put it in perspective, Jason's talking about 2 acres or 4 acres. This is, I would say 100 to right now 2,500 acres available, and the amount of money in culture material and aggregate that it takes to plant that is pretty substantial.
Mm-hmm.
And you're talking barges and boats, and
Right.
you got to get the timing right. You really kind of need to know a little bit about what's going on before you jump off into something like this.
And this is still going to be somebody who's wanting to build a business out of this. Is that
Certainly.
that's who this
So-
market would be too?
So what we want to do is we want to incentivize a private business owner
Mm-hmm.
to lease this acreage and develop it as he or she sees fit.
Mm-hmm.
They would go out and they would plant the bottom. They would wait for recruitment, grow some oysters, and then they would harvest it just like the off bottom guys do, as they want to.
Okay.
So if they want to harvest once a week, they go out and harvest once a week. If they want to harvest once a day, they can do that also. The size also goes the same way. If they have a market for a smaller product, they can harvest that. If they have a market for a bigger product, they can do that.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is incentivize that private business to go out there and really develop that acreage. Historically in Mississippi, the state has managed that oyster resource, and we tell you when, where, and how you can harvest.
Correct.
Just like we're doing right now with this small season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We tell you that it's a 10-day season. You can harvest 10 sacks. What we're doing with this on bottom program is we're saying if you are interested in this and you really want to get into it, you can develop it as you see fit. So get the acreage, plan it as you see fit, and then harvest it as you see fit.
Yeah.
And what that does, it just builds business in Mississippi, and it gets oysters coming out of Mississippi to other areas.
And
Okay.
it's yours. Nobody else can jump on there. That's yours.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it.
Yeah, and it's beneficial for the environment too, right? Because that's just more filtration in the water,
Yep.
Be
right?
fishing.
The
There'll be
environment, the
people
state,
fishing
you know.
on top of it all day long.
Yeah.
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 Now you can still fish hook
Yeah,
line,
yeah,
right.
Yeah. But as far as nobody can come oyster on your
Right.
oyster
Yeah.
list,
Can't dig them up.
Right. I like it, man. I like that.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, we're taking we've changed a lot what's going on in the last 10, 15 years on
Mhm.
how we manage the oyster resources across the state, both the reefs that are viable for harvest and the other reefs that aren't, because they're just as important. They're still providing a service to us.
Mhm.
Right.
And so
Research. Data.
water quality, fish
Right.
habitat,
Yeah.
everything.
Right.
And so we're really taking more of a holistically approach and not just focused in one area. We're across the board. We want oysters anywheres and everywheres.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is this the bulk of what y'all deal with inside of y'all's department, or is there other things that we can talk about that y'all handle as well?
So we deal with all restoration activities. So anything that we're putting out for, as we're saying, to enhance the environment, to help production of oysters, speckled trout, redfish, anything like that. We're involved with that. But harvest and development is what we're looking at. So
Okay. I dig it. Dig it.
Yeah. We just went out yesterday and sunk that big old roach, the big roach barge for a little snapper habitat.
Yeah.
So
How'd that go, by the way?
that's good.
Yeah, that was a joint venture, right? That was Gulf Fishing Banks, and y'all are a part of that as well, right?
Yeah,
DMR?
DMR. Yeah.
Yep, we were out
100%.
there, Bay Pest Control.
Yeah.
So yeah,
With
there
the
were a
roach.
bunch of partners. Yep.
Yeah.
It was
And
cool,
that'll
man.
be a great reef.
Yeah.
It'll
That
be-
sucker went down fast.
Did it?
Like the last pokey boat we sung, we sat out there for like 30 minutes, hour. They pulled the plug on this thing.
Was-
20 minutes, it was gone.
Were you able to get on the boat like you did last time?
No, we got out there late. We had all
Ah.
the girls with us, and we was jigging ships on the way out. We take our time to get out there.
Okay.
But we got out there, and they were pulling the plugs on it, and literally, there's no compartments on that barge. It just filled up, and it was gone.
Yeah. Did you get any video of it?
Yeah, I got some of it.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one that you did the pokey boat, that was legit.
Yeah.
That was
Yep.
legit to see.
Yeah.
You were all
They
over
do a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do. They do.
Anything that'll help the habitat around here, right? Like we've talked about it on the show before, like people in the comments watching those boats get sunk were saying some stupid stuff like pollution and all this other stuff. Like you don't
Marine
realize
debris,
you don't
They have no
realize
idea.
what it goes into that, to
Yeah.
make it safe.
Yeah, it's very productive. Those reefs out there, I know y'all have been out
Mhm.
and harvested snapper and cobia and grouper and everything. They really done well, and that's another thing that's kicked off since Katrina. Hate to keep going back that far, but
You always got to do
It's
it.
a pretty big market.
Yeah.
we've really built those fish havens up in the last 20 years.
100%.
Before that, there was the old modules. I don't know if y'all remember
Yeah.
that, and there wasn't a whole lot left to them, but the fishing's gotten a lot better.
Yeah, the super
Yeah.
pyramids, all these ships. There's a pile. FH13, FH2, 1, all of them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're pretty good now.
Well, that's the reason why we like doing these episodes with you guys so much because, getting the information out there to let people out, the recreational guys know what y'all are doing and all the science that goes behind it, man. Like what's y'all's, how does somebody get into what y'all are doing as far as educational background goes? Is it learn on the job or do we have college behind us or how does that work?
So I think it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I don't think we're going to pigeonhole anyone into one certain thing. If you have the educational background, certainly come talk to us. We'd love to talk to you and see how we could advance your career with that.
Right.
But if you don't, and you're interested in the water or you want to advance in your career with marine resources,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times we can find a way to work with you. We do some internship programs that we've had good success with. But if you're interested and care about Gulf Coast, I think this is the place to be.
Yeah.
You have a lot of opportunities with DMR.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, y'all do a lot of
That's a great
different
place to
stuff.
work.
When we first started these, I think people mainly we talked about this. People mainly see the law enforcement side of it, and that's
Yep.
all they think that the DMR is. And it's like I've learned so much just in doing these episodes, and all the science and all the different departments that you'll have inside of the DMR that manages all this different stuff.
we have a lot of great people, and just in the Shellfish Bureau, we have a lot of great people, and trust me, it takes a whole team, and it's not anything. We're here, but it's them.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, it used to be just like nobody knew what the DMR was doing. And then Mrs. Spraggins comes in and opens the door. So we're all out there now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's good stuff.
Well, gentlemen, thank y'all for stopping by this evening and chatting with us. Where can we send people if they listen to this and they want to get more information or stay up to date, just outside of when y'all come in here and talk to us with oysters and stuff? Is it your website the best place to do that?
Yeah, so our website's got all the information. We actually have a homepage on our website about the 2024 season of the On Bottom Harvest.
Okay.
If you go to our DMR website, it's there. It's on Facebook. I believe it's on all social medias. We do press releases, and we also have hotlines to update the fishermen, which is again on our website to get any information about opening and closures. So I would direct you to the website.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I love it.
Licensing, if we wanted to go harvest some, what do we need? Boat numbers? What do you know what that entails?
Yeah, so what you're going to need is you're going to need your license number, your MI number, your vessel registration number.
Right.
And then you're going to come up there. And if you want to harvest and you've never harvested before, you will have to take a short class with us. And that's what Eric talked about earlier.
Right, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Is that in person or online?
We do it both.
Okay.
So we do it both. It's in person and online, whatever. We try to make it as convenient as possible. But like we said, these oysters are being harvested raw. So we want everybody to abide by that safely.
Mm-hmm.
We teach that class. It gives you the basics, what you can and can't do, and then tells you how to harvest, where to harvest, and when to harvest. It's pretty simple, and then get your license and go out.
Yeah.
We want people to enjoy it.
Yeah.
We want people to go out there and harvest oysters, and then go out for the holidays.
Get them shoulders ready. It's a workout.
Oh, it is for sure. But there is a cultural and heritage component of it as well.
For sure.
And so it is important because you can't just go out in any state and go harvest oysters or shrimp or crabs. And so I think it's very important that Mississippi maintains that.
Yeah. Yeah. We semi take it for granted sometimes. We talk about it on the show all the time. Like, we're just used to it every day. And then, it's like if you shut it down for 5 years and it's like, well, dang, you realize what you had, and how important it really is. Not just the environment, obviously, is the number one most important thing. But like you said, the culture, the cultural,
the favorite part
of
of it.
side of it, man, is like, it means a lot. It really does. So, gentlemen, thanks again for stopping by and chatting with us.
Appreciate it.
We love doing these with y'all. We want to thank everybody on the live stream and on the replays. What do we got on the, go download the Brownwater Banter app. If you don't already have that, stay up to
It's
date.
got the DMR website on there. It's got all that stuff.
Yep. But
scales.
you got the new redfish hats you shared out today, right? We got some for sale.
Yeah. They're on the link. That's pretty much what we got on there. So if you missed them at Peter Anderson, they're on our website if you want to grab them right now before Christmas.
Yeah. It makes a great Christmas gift. So go check those out. And if y'all keep tuning in, man, we'll keep doing them.
Yep.